Oh, but there's no NBA tonight again. We will wait till tomorrow for Game 6 between the Pacers and Oklahoma City. Good day to have on Sean Deveney from Athlon Sports to break down a little NBA on the Sam Bourquin Show. Sean, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well, Sam. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm tired of waiting for the next game, brother. We need to play these games every other night. I know they'll never do it, but I'm going to keep fighting a good fight for it. So, what do you think? What's the latest on Tyrese Halliburton? Will he be able to go tomorrow night, or are the Pacers going to have the next man step up and give it the old college try? What's it looking like?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's a chance he plays. It's not something where he's going to be 100%. They have to do the MRI, and it's really going to be a tricky needle to thread for Coach Rick Carlisle. Of course, you want to let the guy play if he wants to play, but you're risking a long-term injury. Anytime you're talking about a calf and a calf strain, as most people will remember that Kevin Durant, when he blew out his Achilles tendon, it started as a calf strain, and he tried to play through the calf strain, and that led to the Achilles tendon rupture. And so anytime you get that kind of situation, you've got to be extra careful. And with Halliburton, as much as we're in the NBA Finals and it's a must win for the Pacers, they don't want to lose this guy on a long term basis. So chance that he'll play, but I think there'll be a pretty short leash if it's clear that this thing's still bothering him and that there's a further risk there.
That's gonna be a tough game time decision for everybody involved in the organization there. So the only chance that I'm giving Indiana, Sean, and it's because they're going to be at home. If this game was in OKC, I'd write it off and I'd put the champagne on ice because they're home. And again, you know this team as well as anybody. They're not going to go down without fighting and scrapping and pushing and clawing. I just don't know. Like at this point in the series, I look at Oklahoma City. I look at Indiana. They got some really good horses. Oklahoma City has got thoroughbreds, and I think they might just take over.
Yeah, I think that's right. Look, there is a chance. I mean, I think of in the Eastern Conference semifinals after Jason Tatum got hurt in Game 4, Celtics-Knicks. The Celtics went home and despite being without their best player, were able to rally and pull off a win against the Knicks. Kind of on emotion and just sort of a do it for Jason Tatum kind of thing, and so I could imagine that sort of momentum carrying the Pacers. But you're right, when you get right down to it, you could maybe see the Pacers get off to a good start, but it's just hard to see them without Halliburton on the floor. It's hard to see them being able to maintain for 48 minutes. A situation where they could beat the Thunder in a decisive Game 6 like that. So I'd be really surprised, even if Halliburton plays, not going to be 100%. I'd be really surprised if Indiana is able to pull this thing off. I just think that there's too much on Oklahoma City's side. That even if Indiana gets off to that good start, you're going to see the Thunder eventually just kind of wear them down with their talent level, and by the fourth quarter be able to take over the thing.
Sean Deveney is our guest. Check him out on X at Sean Deveney. Does a great job with Athlon Sports and talking all things NBA. So, man, I'm really pulling for Indiana, Sean. I just don't see it. What kind of a start? Well, no, forget that question. What kind of a third quarter when they come out does Indiana have to have? And I know we don't know what the score is going to be at the break, but usually in the NBA, first 3-4 minutes of the third quarter, you get a little vibe, maybe a little peek into how things might happen. How huge is that little 4 or 5 minute block of time going to be?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, especially in this series where, you kind of get the back and forth and you get some early momentum, but then everything really does seem to shift in that third quarter, when you're coming out of that locker room and it's kind of like, it's almost like a halftime truth serum or something. That whatever
Right.
we saw in the first half, we're going to come out and we're going to see how this game is really going to go now. And for Indiana, to me, it's mostly been about turnovers. You've got to limit your turnovers. When they do that, they can win. Oklahoma City is very, very good at not only forcing your turnovers, but converting them into points on the other end. And if Indiana is not winning that battle, no matter who's at point guard, they're not going to win the game. They've got to be able to win that game. And I think in the third quarter especially, we've seen that. I think back to game one, which the Pacers won, where they had 19 first half turnovers, 19 in the first half. But then they came out and they took much, much better care of the ball, wound up winning the game with 5 turnovers in the entire second half. So, to me, it's really going to be about taking care of the ball if you're Indiana, especially if Halliburton's not out there.
Sean, we all knew that the ratings were going to be pretty shaky, and they've turned out to be that. Not helping the matter, in my opinion, the last 2 games I've got calculated 130 free throws attempted, 71 in game 3, I think around 59 in game 4. These games are taking almost 3 hours to play. I think it's hard for the casual guy, girl, whatever, to huddle around the TV and just watch that thing maybe without a dog in the fight. What is your thoughts on the flows of the game, the officiating, and maybe some ways that they can clean this thing up a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's got to be better. I think there's no question about the fact that that the way things are being called, it's not interesting to viewers. I think you're allowing too much of players to sort of force refs into free throws, and the league has tried to clean this up over the years, and they've had some success. This goes back to of course James Harden is the master. You can go all the way back to Manu Ginobili if you want. This is not new, but it is something where it's exacerbated by the fact that that it's already a finals that hasn't garnered a whole lot of interest outside of the 2 markets. So yeah, that's certainly an issue. How they do it, I don't know. I mean, I think they should be much quicker with the replays. I don't know why it takes them as long as it does. There should really be almost a clock on the replay to where you get those done really quickly when you need to. But as far as just getting refs to be more disciplined in terms of when players are clearly trying to draw a foul and not giving them those calls, that's got to be something the league gets better at.
Sean Deveney is our guest, Athlon Sports. Check him out on X at Sean Deveney, at Sean Deveney, Deveney. Kind enough to give us a few minutes here on the Sam Bourquin Show today, 1310 WDPN. All right, before we get to the Knicks looking for the coach and that wild Desmond Bane trade the other day for the Magic, how about the Cavaliers, Sean? Been hearing some whispers, very low whispers, about that Darius Garland could be on the move. Maybe, I don't know, a little bit more stronger case made there recently than before. And who are the Cavaliers looking at? What can they afford to look at to add to their team here when the offseason starts picking up here at beginning next week?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Desmond Bane trade was interesting because we saw it last year with Mikal Bridges, with the Knicks giving up a healthy 5 first-round picks to bring in Mikal Bridges. Now, if you're the Cavaliers, you have to certainly look at that and say, okay, what does this mean for Darius Garland? Well, Desmond Bane went out and Memphis makes a trade for him and gets 4 and a swap. So you're in a situation where you're the Cavaliers and you've got this big luxury tax bill hanging on over you, and you've got the second apron. Finding a trade for Darius Garland, especially if you could get the kind of package that they just got for Desmond Bane. Now, Orlando was one of the potential teams that could have had interest in Darius Garland, so they're off the board now. But certainly you've got to look at where they are in terms of the apron, and if you could get that kind of return for Darius Garland, I don't think there's any question that you've got to take it. I mean, if you can get 4 picks and create a little cushion for yourself, give yourself the ability to re-sign Ty Jerome, which you really don't have in the current, in the way that that their payroll is currently set up. I think you've got to take that. So that Desmond Bane contract, I think, that Desmond Bane trade, I think, is something that's got to interest the Cavaliers in terms of, can we get that package from someone else?
I'm glad you brought up Ty Jerome's name. Do you think that was the real Ty Jerome we saw this past year, or is he almost destined for some kind of a fall off if he would happen to get some kind of a big deal that he might be looking for?
Yeah, I mean, look, when a guy has a season like that, obviously there's some alarm bells that go off. Where has this been? That sort of thing, and now it's a contract year and all that. But I think with Ty Jerome, you can look at the arc of his career, and you can see the injuries and the lack of playing time, the lack of opportunity. I think a lot of that has been a factor in terms of where he was in his career. And really he just needed the right situation. So it's not like he's coming off of a big contract and had kind of loafed through the big contract, then decided I got to play this year because we've seen that before in sports, right? Where you're in the last year of a big contract and you decide, well, now I've got to play up to my ability. I don't think that's the case with him. He never had the big contract to begin with. So I think that him, I really do think it's just a matter of opportunity. He might not play as well as he did this year again, but I think he's also not the player who was the journeyman that we saw in his first 5 years in the NBA. I do think that he's a guy who, will be a useful player for whoever. It might be an overpay, but I think he'll still be a useful player going forward.
Sean Deveney is our guest talking NBA here on the Sam Bourquin Show, 1310 WDPN. Kevin Durant, where does he land, Sean?
Minnesota is still, to me, the team that is showing the most interest and makes the most sense. He doesn't want to play in Minnesota, whatever the reason is, whether it's the weather, I don't know. But it's not high on his list at this point. But it is the one that makes the most sense. It's the one that probably gives him the most opportunity to win right away. I think Minnesota is probably where he winds up. I think that it might take some changing of his mind, but certainly Minnesota is right there. I think Houston is a possibility still. I don't think the Spurs are going to get into that. I think that if they're going to make a move, it's going to be for someone younger, considering the age of the other guys that they've got. Toronto is probably the wild card. I've heard comparisons to the Kawhi Leonard situation. Where even if you're just bringing him in for a year, then go for it. And I think that's entirely possible with Kevin Durant. It's still an open question. I would, if I had to pick, though, I would say that heading to Minnesota is probably the most likely outcome.
I would tend to agree. Now, he's what, Sean, 37 or going to be 37?
Yeah, 37 by the time the season starts.
So he'll be 37. I bet 26.7 or so last year. What are you getting now as far as KD is concerned in 2025, 2026? What's he bringing?
Well, he's going to bring probably one first-round pick. I think you get that. I think if you're Phoenix, you're really looking at trying to get off the contract. Or get something back for the contract, and maybe have another piece so where you can reduce your, that you can sell off and reduce your luxury tax bill. So, you've got Kevin Durant. You can try to use that contract as a way to acquire two players, trade one of them, and reduce your overall payroll. Rudy Gobert is a guy that could get certainly in return if you package him and Dante DiVincenzo. Now, if you're Phoenix, you could maybe turn around and trade Gobert, or you could keep him. But you have some pieces now that you could move and probably get a pick as well. So that's the kind of package that Phoenix would really be looking at in this situation.
Sean, overall, when the free agency window is fully open, do you expect a wild, wild west kind of scenario, or will it be pretty calm, or maybe somewhere in between?
So I think it'll be a different kind of summer where, you have certainly some activity in free agency, but you're going to have that first wave of free agents that is done probably around July 5th or so. The first 3-4 days of free agency will be, when players sign. But there's not a lot of cap space out there, and there aren't a ton of great free agents out there. So I think you're going to see all that happen pretty quickly, and then it becomes a matter of, okay, let's get going with the trades. And that's where we're going to see a different kind of summer. What we saw at the trade deadline this year, I think, is going to carry over into the offseason, where trades are going to rule probably much, much more than what we'll see in free agency. There's not a lot of cap space and not a lot of great players on free agency. This is going to be a very trade-heavy summer. Teams like Boston have to make moves. You mentioned Kevin Durant, so we'll see what happens with Giannis. I mean, these are pretty consequential players, pretty consequential situations that are going to have to be worked out, and they won't be worked out until we get into the meat of the offseason in mid-July.
What would an interview be without somebody asking about LeBron James? So here we go. Are we 100% sure that he is dialed in, locked in? He's going to stay with LA and re-sign, or is he going to drag this out and make us wonder again? Or what's the story with LBJ?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to drag it, make us wonder. I mean, it's LeBron. Maybe he likes a little drama. He likes that kind of attention, and then he likes to pretend that he doesn't like attention. But that's LeBron for you. And I think there's no doubt that he's going to play again, and that it's going to be with the Lakers. Technically a free agent, but he's kind of settled into Los Angeles at this point. He is as much involved in the entertainment business now as he is in the basketball business, and you've got to be in LA for that. So I don't see him making a move away from the Lakers here.
One last thing before we go: New York Knicks. Who's the new head coach going to be?
It's hard to believe that they've gone through all this stuff.
Unbelievable.
The embarrassment of all these teams saying no to them, and all the situations and the slings and arrows of having fired Tom Thibodeau, and they wind up with Mike Brown. To go through all that just to hire Mike Brown really sounds like a lot. But it does seem like that's the direction it's heading. They're going to interview Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins, and maybe one of those two guys. I still think Mike Malone is their best choice. Yep. But for some reason they've been resisting. They've been reluctant to include him on their list. But we'll see if that changes. Right now, I'd have to say Mike Brown is the favorite, which is a pretty shocking development considering the way things have unfolded here.
Holy Madison Square Garden. Mike Brown, the coach of the New York Knicks. Oh, my God. Sean, thank you so much for joining us today. Enjoy what is left of the NBA Finals, and we'll talk to you down the road. Appreciate your time.
Okay, Sam. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Sean Deveney, Athlon Sports, covers all things NBA.